Before he leaves the floor, let me just thank my colleague from California, my southern neighbor, for his excellent comments that so eloquently put in perspective what the choices are all about. You and I want everybody in America to have a chance to get ahead. Everybody. That's not been the case with what we've seen with Mr. Vought and the Trump administration. The brakes are going to go to the people at the top, and we're going to offer a very different approach. And I'm going to spend a few minutes following up your good remarks and then yield to my colleague, who's been a wonderful addition to the Senate Finance Committee, Senator Smith. Mr. President, Russell Vought is the lead architect of the Trump economic bait and switch. And it's a pretty clear approach to follow. Donald Trump spent months and months on the campaign trail promising workers and working families were going to be his focus. You might recall that he promised that he was going to lower grocery prices. He went into grocery stores. He said prices are going to go down under my presidency. It took just a few weeks before that one was dropped. Anybody who wonders about grocery prices today can just go to the market and try to figure out how to get through buying some eggs, because it's the same kind of problem. All these kind of efforts to tell working class people that they would come first have really given way to something that I call the bait and switch. Instead of the relief being targeted to workers, people for whom the big issues have the second word as bill. It might be medical bill, it might be rent bill, it might be gas bill, but that's what's going on in their lives. They're hurting. And the reality is, Trump doesn't care about that. So he's going to cut programs that they depend on, like housing and health care and affordable energy, in order to take that money and move it over to supercharge the 2017 tax cut and give even more benefits to the people at the top. Now, we're going to, on the Finance Committee, and I have my colleague here, Senator Smith, who I know shares this view, we're going to push back against that kind of economic bait and switch, because we know how unfair it is. You know, right now in America, if you're a firefighter or a nurse, you pay taxes with every single paycheck. No question about it. It's a responsibility of citizenship. You pay taxes with every paycheck. If you're one of the high flyers, though, Mr. President, it doesn't work that way. You can, to a great extent, pay what you want, when you want to, and sometimes go for years on end paying virtually nothing. In fact, on the front pages of the Wall Street Journal, it was described some time ago as buy, borrow, and die. Buy lots of assets, maybe houses you don't use at all, borrow against them for your very opulent lifestyle, and then you pass. Buy, borrow, and die, the glide path that ensures that if you're at the very top, you will pay little or nothing for years on end while working people get clobbered. You can be sure this is going to be something that Mr. Vought and President Trump are going to pursue very vigorously, because this is what they had in mind when they were making plans to do the bait and switch and take from people of the working class and transfer those benefits to the people at the top. Now, Mr. Vought was a co-author of the infamous Project 2025. Now, this has been particularly curious because when Donald Trump heard about this, he acted like he had nothing to do with it. Project 2025, what's that? Who knows anything about that? Well, it's pretty clear that he knew everything about it, that he was working with Mr. Vought, and what started off as a right-wing wish list quickly became the guiding policy agenda for Donald Trump and his administration. It's the blueprint for Republicans to unravel the federal government as we know it. Now, there are some highlights of Project 2025 that certainly deserves some discussion here this morning. Nationwide abortion ban is on the agenda, slashing food assistance programs, eliminating Head Start early education, yet more goodies for big pharma, a green light for various types of discrimination, and then to top it all off, the real essence of the agenda, take a sledgehammer to checks and balances, give the president the power to throw the Constitution in the trash can, and defy congressional authority. Pretty graphic parade of horrors. But over the last few days, the American people have witnessed the reality of one of the mainstays of Project 2025 play out right before their eyes. Mr. President, last Friday, just 6 days ago, whistleblowers told me about something that has turned out to be more alarming than I thought. We were told that the Treasury Secretary was going to give the keys to the Treasury Payments Program to Mr. Musk. And that has played out now before our eyes. I say to my colleague from the Finance Committee, we got this letter a day or so ago saying, what's everybody worried about? Nothing to see here, no big deal. And you slap your forehead or something and you say, are you kidding me? Look at what Musk is announcing every single day that he's doing. And I've said before, and I say it again, Elon Musk, take your hands off the people's money. He is seizing control of the Treasury Department's highly sensitive payment system containing home addresses, bank account numbers, private Social Security, and tax information of hundreds of millions of Americans. My colleague from Minnesota and I spend a lot of time advocating for privacy rights. When Musk is done with that agenda that I just described, looking at people's home addresses, bank accounts, Social Security numbers, there are going to be very little elements of real privacy left. Even more concerning, Musk has shown that he's willing to use control of these payment systems to target nonprofits that he disagrees with. He starts with religious nonprofits providing crucial community services. So the whole point of this, and Senator Smith and I have watched this, was supposed to be going after some kind of instances of fraud and abuse and such thing. What did he do? He went after religious prophets providing crucial community services. This Doge takeover is the type of thing Mr. Vought and his far-right buddies were dreaming about. Probably goes all the way back to their dorm rooms. And just last week, the Office of Management and Budget, the office Mr. Vought would be tasked with overseeing, put in place the funding freeze that would cut off federal funding for any organization or group across the country that relies on it. Law enforcement, schools, small businesses, firefighters. These are services that are lifelines to small communities. All of them being punished. Within hours of that freeze going into effect, our staff received word that the Medicaid payment system had gone completely dark in all 50 states. Now, Mr. President, I remember what this was all about from my days as director of the Gray Panthers. This kind of program was a lifeline in terms of giving people information about their medicine and nursing home benefits and the services of Medicaid. So when I heard about this, I put something up online. All 50 states, all of them, Medicaid portals, backed up, maybe not working at all. And for several hours, the states were locked out, leaving the fate of Medicaid and health care coverage for tens of millions of vulnerable Americans unknown and leaving patients, states, and providers scrambling. Because of the tremendous outcry from senior citizens advocates, disability rights folks, community leaders of all political philosophies, that portal got up and running. But it's a sobering reminder that Republicans have their sights set, particularly Mr. Vought, on doing everything they can to unravel Medicaid and rip away health coverage from millions of Americans in the process. While OMB seemingly tried to walk back parts of the funding freeze just a day later, the confusion and chaos has had lasting impacts and likely will for weeks and months to come. To continue in that vein, my office is still hearing from Head Start providers back in Oregon that are locked out of their payment systems, Unless those funds are turned back on soon, these schools that serve the rural parts of Oregon will have to start closing their doors because they can't afford to keep operating. Now, all of this makes sense if you understand that one of the main goals of Project 2025 and its key author, Mr. Vought, is taking away Congress's power of the purse and giving it directly to the president. That means giving the president the authority to redirect or cut off federal funds to programs they don't like or that didn't align with their personal agenda. Because the painful truth is Donald Trump doesn't care if the economy crashes and these communities I'm talking about suffer. He and Mr. Vought want hungry kids and seniors to just try to get by on their own. They want domestic violence survivors to have nowhere to turn for shelter. They want to deny law enforcement the resources they need to keep our communities safe. I just had groups of law enforcement people come to see me pleading for help with resources. They didn't come as Democrats and Republicans. They came as folks from Oregon and the Pacific Northwest to say, we want to make sure that our communities have that added measure of safety. And unfortunately, the Trump people want to end life-saving research that's going to be so important to dealing with cancer and other diseases, and they don't seem to be at all concerned about patients being turned away from basic health care. It's clear to me, Mr. President, this array of challenges that I've described, where the Trump people, particularly the president, have walked back the pledge that was made in the campaign to put working families first, to give everybody a chance to get ahead. Those campaign promises from the fall have vanished. Poof, they're gone. What's taken place now is a very different agenda, the bait and switch agenda, where instead of following through on those promises to working families, you're going to make sure that the people who get the fruits of the economic reforms that are coming are going to be the people at the top. America can do better. We always do better when we give everybody in our country the chance to get ahead and we come together to pursue that in a united way. I'm voting no against Russell Vought because that kind of economics is not on his agenda, and I yield to my colleague from Minnesota.